Again, my name's Brian. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. It's good to have all of you with me today. Now, if you are joining and you've been in my gamification session before, just so you know, there will be some things, a lot of things really, that I'm doing here that I did last year. So if you want to join another session, if you already seen, some of the puzzles and some of the games that I've showed before, don't feel pressure. You're not going to hurt my feelings either. If you want to hop to one of the other sessions that might be something new or different, but I just want to make sure everybody knew that. Welcome, everyone. Good to have you here. We're going to start here in just less than a minute. Pull questions over here. I heard a ding dong. I think that's my friend and colleague, Don Skaggs, joining. Don, if you can hear me, you're backstage. There we go. Don, can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes, I can. Sorry, Brian, I was coming out of my last session, but yes, I can see you.
Boy, what a great session that was. I was sitting in on that when listening to those administrators and teachers share their implementation story. It's awesome.
Very motivational.
Absolutely.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people here across, the country. We've got them from Oklahoma all the way to New Hampshire and Illinois and Ohio and Tennessee, California. Great to have everybody here. My name's Brian Thomas. I am really excited to have an opportunity to share with you some tips on gamification. This is third period, and it's going to be the last bell of the day. You made it. So at the very end, I'll go through some slides on how you can get the goodies that we're going to be providing everybody as your takeaway. Also, I know this is a question that people oftentimes have. Are the sessions going to be recorded? And the answer is yes. We'll make sure we record every session and that you'll be able to access not just the ones that you sit in here, but you'll actually be able to go and watch any of the videos from any of the sessions that are going on. Now, this is a session on gamification. Just I'll go through this because you've probably already heard it twice. I'll go through it really quick, housekeeping. You can use the Q&A for questions. Dawn is helping me to monitor the questions that you might have that are there. And of course, chat, you should be able to now chat with everybody. Sorry that was disabled there for a few moments, but you should be able to send a chat to everybody. And I definitely want you to make good use of that because we learn more when we learn together. So make sure that you share those ideas. There is closed captioning available, so just click the CC button on that. Now, let's take a little poll real quick. How many of you have already played a game today? So what I want you to do is I want you to grab your smartphone and scan that little code right there. Or if you wanted to, you could go to menti.com, menti.com, and use the code 3825805. And you're going to answer that question, yes or no. My family, I am on a text chain called Thomas Women and Brian, where all the Thomas women, because I'm the only boy on my side of the family, they all are a part of a text chain called Thomas Women and Brian. And what we do is we play Wordle every day. And they are knocking down my door because I'm the only one that has not posted yet today already what my score is for Wordle. So what I want to know is, do you play games every day? Have you played a game today, Dawn?
I have not yet, but I'm glad I'm not in your text thread because I know your Wordle skill set. So I would be too intimidated to be a part of your family Wordle thread.
Sometimes I might Google things. Sometimes I might Google things to help me out.
He's not above it.
Yeah, I'm not above it at all because my sisters are involved. And if you ain't trying sometimes. So I definitely take advantage of that. Now in here, we can actually see that, it's about half and half, right? About half of the folks have played a game already. Well, I take that back. Actually, the median is what, 3.1. But there's a lot that are way over here at yes, and a lot here at no. So again, yeah, it's about 50-50 in terms of who's played a game today or not. I love games. I love games of all sorts. I love puzzles. I love mysteries. I love everything about games because it makes things interesting. And one of the trends that we've seen here over the past, I would say maybe 10 years, is that teachers have started talking a lot more about gamification. But games aren't new when it comes to learning. If I think back to my time as a very young student, back in the 1970s, when I had a head full of hair at that point, my teachers played games with me. So gamification really isn't new, but there are some strategies that we could use to really get the most out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sharing some tips and things to think about. Now, one of the things that I shared before we started is that if you've sat in on this session in the past, some of what I'm going to be sharing here, you may have seen before. So you're not going to hurt my feelings if you hop to another session so that you could see something brand new. But if you've not, then let me share with you some of the strategies and tips, but also give you a little research as well that goes behind it, and then give you some very concrete locations of how TCI gamifies, and give you some simple ones that are a lot of fun that are my favorites to employ. So let's do something together. Let's play a game together real quick. Something simple and easy, because gaming does not have to be complicated. And I'm going to have you all imagine to be that you are in my middle school social studies class. Now, we have just finished a lesson on Jacksonian democracy, and you are begging for more because you can't get enough of Jacksonian democracy. So let's play a little review game real quick. In a moment, you're going to be answering a question based on these two images right here. So I want you to look at these images very closely. Dawn, are you still off of mute?
I am off of mute now.
Can you give me a little bit of the Jeopardy, kind of music? Can you? That's good. Oh, you did Final Jeopardy. Wow. Okay. So here we
I
go.
messed it up.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're all good. So you've studied both image A and image B. Everybody hover your fingers over the keyboard. I'm going to put a question on the next slide. And when you see it, you can answer it immediately. Immediately. But try not to look at the chat so that you get a chance to be able to answer it without other people interfering with your own behalf. So image A, image B, here you go. Here's your question. Which number showed where Andy Jackson was? Which number showed where Andy Jackson was? Let's see how we do. This reminds me of that SNL skit that
I was
Jerry
going to say,
Seinfeld
I was
did.
going to say, I was
Yes,
going to say
yeah,
five.
yeah. I was gonna say four, and because that is the right answer. Four. That's right. That's Andy Jackson. Now, bonus question, but it's not. I'm not gonna reveal it. But let's see who knows. Who is in image A? Who is the focal point of image A? Can you throw that into the chat for a bonus point? Who can do that?
This must be the advanced class,
It
BT.
is. It is the advanced class. Way to go. It is George Washington. We've got a really great lesson on Jacksonian democracy where at the very beginning, the students listened to two pieces of music. Dawn, you taught middle school US. Did you ever do this
I
lesson?
did.
Yeah,
I did.
I loved it. So the students listened to Hail Columbia, which would be a piece of music that would be something that might have played at Washington's inauguration. And then they listened to fair and free elections, right? Or no, it was the Hunters of Kentucky,
I
right?
was going to say, and I can sing it if you'd like, but we'd
Oh,
probably run out of
boy.
time.
So they listened to these two really great pieces of music, while they're analyzing the picture and trying to describe, all right, what's different, in 30 years time, what's different from the image A and image B. It's a really great lesson intro. And this could be a really quick way to do a little entrance ticket or an exit ticket where you're gamifying that. Fun and easy. Games do not have to be complicated. And that takes me to what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to tell you why games work. I'm going to give you some elements of a good game. I'll talk to you about where TCI gamifies learning and where you can see it concretely. We'll do that live together right now. And then we're going to give you some simple ways that you can gamify. You'll actually get a gamification toolkit as part of that. So as I'm going through the session today, I want you to share your ideas too. So you'll see in the poll, and I'll go ahead and move this slide one slide ahead. Yep, this will work right here. So how do you gamify learning? Feel free to, you could be sharing that throughout. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this. And Dawn, if you could remind me before we go to Q&A, I want to come back to this slide so that we can look at all the ways that people say that they're gamifying inside their classroom. Okay. And again, to answer that poll question, all you need to do is to scan that QR code right there or go to menti.com and use the code 382580 and 5. So I'll wait just a few more seconds and then I'm going to get back to it and I'm going to share with you some tips right away. All right. So why do games work? Well, there is a growing body of research now that has started to look into this trend. And I call it a trend because it's being talked about more, but games have been around in education as long as people have been learning. But in this more recent trend of gamification, there has been a wealth of research to support its pedagogical underpinnings. One such study, which was released in 2021, showed that in the years from 2015 to 2020, that there was a positive relationship between a gamified learning and student motivation and engagement. Doesn't necessarily mean that just playing a game, your students are going to become Einsteins, but in terms of their motivation and their engagement to learning, there was a positive correlation. And folks, that's the hard part when it comes to teaching. Look, I like to describe it as every student falls into one of three categories. They either get it, they don't get it, or they don't get that they don't get it. And the hard part of teaching is trying to get everybody into that get it phase, but also knowing some of that is outside of your control. But one of the things that we can control as teachers is we can help to control the motivation and engagement. We can ramp it up. And there is support for the pedagogy that says gamified learning is going to help motivate and engage your students. Now, there's a wealth of other research to support it too. And I encourage you, if you're new to gamification or thinking about gamification, but you want to justify it for yourself intellectually, there's white papers out there that do it. Go on and look at some of the body of research that supports it. But what are some elements of a good game? I really kind of break it down to three things: strategy, chance, and design. My family, as I told you, loves to play Wordle. I also like other games like Connections, which is also New York time zone now. And what's another one? Oh, I love chrono.com, where you have to organize 6 events in order that they occurred from the earliest to the latest. Because I taught history, I love it. But what all of those games that I play have in common is that there's some strategy involved, there's chance involved, and there's good design. Now, if we focus first on the strategy, part of what makes games fun, like if you think back to playing the first board games that you may have done as a kid, like Mousetrap or sorry, or shoots and ladders, or things like that, is that there's some strategy involved. You're not going to be able to just open it up and play without knowing kind of the quirks and the rules, that there is some structure to it, some strategy that's involved. For me, when I play Wordle, I always have a common start word, crane, C-R-A-N-E, because I have read research that shows that the most common consonants are R and N if they're in the same word together. Don't ask me where I read that. I'm going to believe it until I die, but I always start with that word. That is my strategy. That's my start word. Games also, good ones, have elements of chance. Just because I start with the word crane doesn't guarantee that within 6 tries, I'm going to end up with the right word for the day. So there is an element of chance involved. I may or may not win. If you won every time, that's no fun. After a while, you'll get burnt out. But if you win sometimes and you lose sometimes, and there's a chance, that's going to keep you coming back, that anticipation that we're looking for. So good games involve chance, but good games also focus on design. And when I say design, I'm not talking about intricate design where there's lots of things going on the screen. I mean, think about it. Wordle is literally a series of blank boxes that you fill in with letters. So in terms of like graphical design, it's not beautiful, it's just simple, and it works because the design supports the strategy and chance involved for the players. So it all works together. And when everything's working together, success is just a matter of time. So strategy, chance, and design. Those are 3 elements when you're thinking about doing a game with your students that you need to keep in mind. So you might ask yourself, well, when is the right time to play a game with my students? Well, the answer is, what's your goal? It's going to be based off of that. So if your goal, for example, is that you want to build relationships with your students because we're coming into August and the start of the school year. If you're looking at the start of the year, well, games can be a great way to build relationships. So that is a great time to play a game. Also, games can be really effective when they're used to review or to perhaps even be an avenue of teaching the content. So it tends to fall in one of those 2 buckets. What is your instructional goal? Don't start with the game and work back. Start with your goal and move forward and think about, all right, if I am going to game, or if my goal is I need to build relationships, or I'm wanting to teach Andrew Jackson, is there a game that's going to support what my instructional goal is? And sometimes the answer is going to be no, and that's okay. You're not going to play a game in every class. As my friend Matt Mormon, who's a colleague here at TCI, you're not going to make Play-Doh every day. So, like anything else, you want to season your instruction with gaming, but that helps you to determine, all right, when is the right time to play. Now, that takes me to where we gamify learning, and I can share with you all the different examples of gamified learning in TCI. And what I'm going to start with is I'm going to give you an opportunity to experience some of these TCI games. And one of the first ones that I'm going to give you a chance to experience is a video activity. And we're going to do another poll as part of that. So you're going to answer a this or that. Now, as you see this or that, and I'm going to move forward on this poll just quickly so that you can see that. Let's say that you've got 2 options, and you could either go out and do some exploring out there somewhere in the wild, or you could solve a mystery. You could do an explore game like Capture the Flag or something like that, or you could try to solve a mystery or participate in one of those murder mystery parties. Which of the 2 of those would you select? Option 1 or option 2? So if you go back to your Mentimeter poll, which again is at menti.com, 3825805. You're going to put that in there. In fact, I will copy that code and I'm going to put it into the chat. Which of those 2 options would you do? A lot of people like mysteries. Dawn, you don't like mysteries, do you? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think. You and I have talked about this before. You don't like murder mysteries and things like that.
I don't dislike them, but I don't like them on the level you do. But who does really?
Well, I was going to say I'm not normal either.
You're
So
not normal.
yeah, I'm not normal. So that's okay. But a lot of people, it looks like almost a 2-to-1 split, essentially right now, that like mysteries. All right. So I'm going to give you a chance to be able to experience that one first, and then we're going to do this one. So we're going to start with the mystery, and then we'll come back and we'll take a look at the other. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back here, and you all selected option 2. So my example for you of gamified learning that we put in our programs, some of our video activities that we do in our social studies programs have video activities that are very much gamified. And this one here is one that I created called the Golden Age of Athens. Now, there's a lesson and a classroom activity, but there's also a video activity that you have an option for as a teacher when you're doing this lesson. So let's take a look at one and experience just a little bit of it. I'll take you through where the mystery kind of lies in this particular video activity and how it gamifies it. So here we're going to be helping an international police organization solve the mystery involving stolen artifacts related to ancient Greece. Now, as a part of that, this one will open with a little video, and I'm going to play the video so that you get a sense of how it helps to build some anticipation for the students and what they're going to be doing in this little game.
My name is Detective Nico. I work with Interpol, which is an international police organization. My task force desperately needs your help. A large number of objects related to ancient Greece have gone missing from museums across Europe. We have successfully located several artifacts, but we need your help in categorizing and investigating 3 suspects we have been following. It is my belief that one of these people is a master criminal. Your historical knowledge of Greece will be invaluable to our efforts. As a person of Greek heritage myself, I would be personally grateful. So without delay, let's get started.
All right, let's get sleuthing here. So what's going to happen is that after the students do that, they're going to go through an investigation phase where first they're going to have to be able to identify some recovered artifacts. Now, as part of that, we're going to give them some text to read. And it's going to be the same text students would read for the classroom activity. They're going to also answer some text-based questions, which it records their data and it sends it back to me as a teacher in my gradebook. So I can actually see individual performance or even view classroom trends. And then when I'm ready to go ahead and start looking at each of the artifacts, I can interact with the images that are here. So it's a fun game because I feel like I've got a little cork board here and I could say, ooh, I'm going to see this a little bit more closely. Let's learn a little bit more about this particular artifact. And so there's a video that goes right along with the content, but also points out what this information is, what that artifact is. And then I'm going to have to make the connection over here through answering the questions. Now, as I continue to do that for each of the remaining artifacts, after I've examined all of those, then the investigation is going to move ahead. I will have learned a lot about the artifacts that were stolen, at the same time learning about the legacy of ancient Greece. I'm tricking the students into learning, Dawn. And then what we're going to do is we're going to continue by, let's see if we can narrow down which of the 3 suspects and where they were based on where those items were stolen. So I'm going to give them some evidence that they're going to have to examine with greater detail. So I know that suspect A, we collected a passport from them, and I can view the dates on that, compare it to the items that were stolen and see, all right, were they there at all 3 locations in the same time frame? Or if not, was suspect B based on the evidence that we provide them? And what about suspect C? Maybe it's them. When they're all finished, the students will have solved a mystery, and it will have gamified their learning experience. So that's one example of a video activity where we do that. The other one that you all asked about was, or that you had a chance to vote on, was the physical and human geography of Canada and the United States, believe it or not, because it's an exploration game. This one is in our Geography Alive program. And this one is a geocache activity. Now, if you don't know what geocaching is, it's okay. We have a video that we provide the students at the very beginning of this that explains what geocaching is. Now, the content that they're going to be learning about in this game is on Canada and the United States. So similar to the other game that you saw, we're going to provide some videos and some questions that they have to answer, but they're all trying to accomplish tasks. And if they do that, then they're going to be able to collect an item. So for example, let's say that I wanted to learn a little bit more about physical features of Canada and the United States, but I also want to find a hidden cache that's related to physical features. So if I go there, I'm going to watch a video that's specific on physical features. I'm going to read the text. I'm going to answer some questions. And then if I do everything that's provided for me in the challenge, then woohoo, I'm going to get and find this hidden cache that has a Petoskey rock. So if anybody here is from Michigan, you know what those are, the smooth little rocks that they have in the waters off of Lake Michigan. But we have the Petoskey stone, and there's this little bottle opener there as well that has the Rockies in the background. So the students are collecting caches as they go right along. So that's one place that TCI gamifies, is through some of our newer resources called video activities. But a lot of the classroom activities have games too, and they're built around games. Good example is the one I'm projecting right here, which is a little video clip that we use to explain the dot game. It's a high school lesson on the Cold War. It's amazing. Any teacher that teaches U.S. history, they do the dot game, and that's what they know it as of for the rest of their life. Kids will literally come to you years later saying, do you remember I was a dot in your class? Because it's an activity where the students are trying to identify hidden communists that are living amongst them. If you teach fourth grade and you teach regions of the United States, there's a little mystery that we have built inside there where the students are trying to crack the case of shrunken objects, crooks that have gone around using shrink rays to shrink objects related to cities in the West. So there are classroom activities where we build our resources around it. I also want to go live and share with you other places that we gamify learning. Regardless of whether you teach science or social studies, it's there for everybody. If you click over here under lesson games, you will be taken into our lesson game library. And for every lesson, you'll see what options are available for you. Like here, for example, I see that I have 2 games possible on my lesson on the rise of Sumerian city-states in my Ancient World program. One called The Matrix of Knowledge. And this is something that I can assign to my students. Some teachers, when they use these lesson games, they like to play it together as a class. So what that might look like is me projecting it, but maybe having the students use a whiteboard or something like that, where they write their answers down and we have them reveal the answers all at the same time. So like this question here, in Sumer, the water supply was, do we think it was inadequate, unreliable, extreme, contaminated? And I might count down and say, all right, everybody take a moment, write your answer down, 1, 2, 3, and then they reveal and we decide, oh, hey, anybody that had unreliable, you get 1 point. Way to go, and we continue playing. Or you assign it to your students and they play it individually, and all of that data gets collected and comes right back to your grades. So the lesson games are a really fun way to be able to review or even pre-teach sometimes the content. Some people will use them in place of doing a traditional summative assessment even. So there are lots of different opportunities that you could use lesson games. And it's not all of the games are exactly the same. This one looks a little bit like Jeopardy, but the next one could look very different. Some of you in your program would even also have vocabulary games. Like this one here, it has a little vocabulary game called Community Cleanup. where they're going to use this little exercise to challenge their content knowledge of the key content terms from the chapter. So I'll play just a little bit of it. Let's do one term together. All right, a wall of earth built to prevent a river from flooding its banks. Dawn, I'm going to rely on you. What do you want me to click?
Oh, I was answering a question. A wall of earth built to prevent a river from flooding its bank is a levee.
All right, great job, Dawn. All right, then we're going to move our car ahead a little bit. We get a little speed boost. I want to pick up some trash, clean up my community. Uh-oh, got another one right there. So we would continue playing the game, and it collects data, sends it to these. Now, anytime the students play a lesson game or a vocabulary game, they get 2 attempts to be able to answer the question correctly. If they get it right on the second attempt, it gives them half the credit. So they can still earn points. If they miss it after the second attempt, it will tell them what is the correct response. Now, those are just some quick and easy places that you can find games inside TCI. I'm going to give you some other ways outside of what we have in our program. I'm going to give you some other ways that you can simply gamify. Before I do that, I'm going to pause and see, Dawn, are there any questions that have come in that this would be a good time to stop and focus on?
I don't believe so. I think we're in good shape right now, Brian.
Okay, perfect. And if I come back over here to my Mentimeter, I want to come back here because some people might still be looking to add some ideas. Wow, there's a lot of them in there. Look at that, 37 responses already. Buzzers, whiteboards, playing Jeopardy. A lot of people like Jeopardy. Nearpod and Pear Deck and Kahoot, Scattergories. What's that one that you play where you hit the buzzer if they say the wrong, they say a banned word? It's Taboo. I used to love playing Review Taboo with my students, where we'd write down 3 content words that are most closely associated with something, and they couldn't say any of those things. And we would play Kahoot, or not Kahoot, but we would play Review Taboo together. There's simple ways that you can gamify learning pretty much every day. Now, if you scan the little QR code there, you're going to be taken to our gamification toolkit. It's 2 pages. You can print it out. It looks a little bit like this right here. One of my favorite that I like to recommend, if you're a person that likes to do entrance and exit tickets, but you don't want to teach something really, you don't want to have to do a very complicated or long kind of game. Well, an entrance or an exit ticket with some ciphers is a great way to gamify. And that's going to be an example that we're going to do here together. So open up the toolkit, use some of the ideas in there. You'll see other ways. Like if you remember back, I shared with you when you're thinking about gaming, when's the right time to game? Well, if your goal is to build relationships with your students, here's some suggestions. Or if you're looking to teach content or review content, here's some suggestions over here. But obviously, you all are putting in lots of ideas of your own, so it goes well beyond the ones that we have. One of my favorite ways to simply gamify with an entrance or an exit ticket is to use ciphers. Now, here on the screen, you see 8 ciphers. There's something called a number substitution cipher. What that is essentially is every letter is representative of a number. So if I say the word that you're trying to discover begins with the number 16, then you would say, well, that letter's got to be P, right? Because that is the number substitution cipher. That's how that works. The pigpen cipher, very popular in a lot of mystery games that almost remind me a little bit of what was the movie with Tom Hanks where he was trying to find all the stuff around the country. What was that? It was National Treasure. Was it Tom? No, that wasn't Tom Hanks. Who was National Treasure? Who was that? That's going to drive me crazy.
Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage.
Thank you very much. But you know, something like that reminds me of the pigpen cipher, where they're using essentially little squares and diagonals to indicate what letter of the alphabet something is. So if you saw something that was completely one box, but it didn't have a dot in it, that would represent the letter E, believe it or not. A phrase maze where you can actually hide a question or a statement within a maze that students have to find their way in and out. And this is just an example right there. Or a rebus code. A lot of young people would be very good at rebus codes because they text all the time and they use all these emoji symbols that old farts like me look at and have no idea what they mean, but they do. Where here they would be using some rebus codes and trying to figure out what the word represents. Even though it's not a cipher, it's actual language, American Sign Language. It's a great little cipher that could potentially be used. Or Morse code. And Dawn, I know you know Morse code.
It's true. It's true.
She knows it. She knows it. Morse code is an excellent way to bring in some history at the same time, a little cipher. Something called the @bash cipher, sometimes called A to Z and Z to A, because that's how it works essentially. The book cipher, where every sentence or every letter could represent a particular area inside of a book, so that if you gave the students 3 different numbers, they would be able to look in, find the letter in specific locations, and begin to put a word or a phrase together. That QR code right there will take you to these ciphers. So if you want to use some ciphers, grab that QR code. I'm going to play that with you right now. I'm going to give you a very simple example of how you could do something with these ciphers and your students. And I'm going to do it right now. So I want everybody to scan it, or if you click, and I'm going to copy this link address and I'm going to share it into Zoom chat right now with everybody. So I'm the last one that was texted in there. There we go. So if you click that, you should be able to see the ciphers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 letters, and you're going to have to decipher those 3 letters. Now, those 3 letters, by the way, they all use a different cipher. So we're going to see how you do. Let me click forward here. What is this word? There are 3 letters to this word. Each symbol below comes from a different cipher. This symbol comes from the Pigpen cipher. This one from @bash, and this one is the number substitution cipher. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Let's see if you can figure it out and throw it into chat. I'm very proud, Dawn, of my little countdown clock there.
That is pretty snazzy. I was going to answer in Morse code, by the way, but
Can you do that in chat? Can you answer in?
Absolutely, I can.
I want to see that. I want you to answer that in Morse code in chat.
That's a challenge I'm willing to accept.
All right. As Dawn is reaching back into her mind, oh, she did it right there. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Yes. And to her point, the answer is TCI. Now, you could ask that question in any science class, not TCI, but you could change it to something you talked about, maybe a word of the day. Maybe it's a famous person if you're in a history class, or in geography. Maybe it's a famous location, and you give them a clue, but then you give them a cipher, and it could be one or more that you do. You could scale it up or scale it down, but that's a very simple way to be able to gamify learning. And hey, I'm going to give you one more, and it's one I meant to include, but I love doing with my students, and all it requires is painter's tape. That's it. And it's a great one to do at the beginning of the school year. I used to play this game called Who or What Am I? And what I would do is I would get like 20, 30 pieces of painter's tape, however many students I was going to have in my class. I'd write a word or a person or a place, because I was a history teacher. I would write it down on the back of the tape, on the tape, and on each piece. And as the student came in, I would put it on their back. I would put the piece of tape on their back, and then I told them go. And what they had to do is they had to move around the room, and they had to find out from other people what was on their back, but they could not ask directly, they couldn't ask the person, what does it say? They only could give somebody clues. Well, what's on your back, Dawn, is this location. It's located along the Ohio River, and they are home to the oldest professional baseball team. They last won a World Series in 1990. They have a pretty good football team sometimes. They did a couple of years ago go to the Super Bowl from this city. Dawn, do you know which city I'm talking about? And she does. She knows Cincinnati. So there we go. That's how you can simply and quickly gamify learning, some tips, some tricks, where you can do it inside TCI. So as we're starting to wrap up here, Dawn, before I get to our closing slides, are there any questions that you all have about gamification?
Not a question gamification specific, but someone did ask at the close if you can mention how they can obtain their certificate, Brian.
Thank you very much. So, and that's a perfect transition or segue, as it were, to that information. So we're going to make sure that you're supported all along the way. If you've not known already, you can know that you're going to be getting a TCI newsletter. I always encourage people, open it up. May not always have something specific to you, but open it up. You're going to find something new every month. And I would encourage you to do that. The in-app professional development, we continue to add courses there. That's a great place to be able to go, be able to get answers to your questions in a moment of need. And then also, I heard earlier, we had 60 people join our Teach with TCI Facebook group already at the end of first period, by the end of first period. So if you've not joined our Facebook group, that is a collaborative group where teachers are sharing and talking together, then scan that QR code and join that group. Again, the in-app professional development, it's living inside your TCI account. Everything that you could possibly want to know about assigning, grading, navigating, and planning a lesson, we've got it in there, but we also make sure that we support you with learning management systems and teacher tips and beyond. And right now, there's actually a session that's going on right now on the coaching program. And you might be saying, shoot, I wish I had seen that. Remember, every session's being recorded. So if you weren't able to make it into Kelsey's session on the coaches program, no worries. We're going to have a recording of it. Definitely watch that. Go to our coaches landing page. That's what this QR code is right here, where you can learn more about the program, get a certificate by taking a course and becoming a coach inside your district.
Brian, I just dropped that link into chat for everyone as well. If you don't have the ability to scan that code at the moment, you can grab that link from chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Dawn. Continue to share what you've learned today. And remember that if you share, we care, because you're going to be put into a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. All you have to do is on Twitter or Facebook, make sure you use the hashtag TCI Summit 24. And finally, to get back to that person that asked the question, because here it is, you need to scan that survey right there on this page. And Dawn, I think we have a link for it too, right?
Yes, I'm grabbing those links now.
So Dawn's going to pop the link in there. If you scan that link and you take that survey, here's what's going to happen next. You're going to get this tumbler here where you can put your chocolate milk. Or whatever your favorite beverage is. For me, it might actually be Verner's Ginger Ale. That's my favorite beverage of all things, is Verner's. You get it in your tumbler. So you're going to get a tumbler. You're going to get a certificate of attendance. So it's going to have the 3 hours plus 15 minutes or whatever it might be. It will have a certificate of attendance that you'll also be getting that you can turn into your district for additional content hours. And then for those of you who came to the conference, but you don't have access to TCI, maybe your district hasn't purchased it, and maybe you saw all these things and you're like, well, that's really cool, but I can't do it. Well, you can, because we're going to make sure that you get free access, because when you complete this survey right here, one of the questions that you're going to be asked is, do you currently or does your district have TCI? And if you answer no, we're going to be following up with you to make sure that you can get an account and be able to use it completely on us for a year with your students. So that's what's going to happen next. Dawn, any last questions? Anything I missed?
Someone asking where they can find the cipher and codes in TCI.
Um, so that you need the link. Let me back up here, right here. I'll throw it into chat one more time.
And what was the chronological order game that you referenced earlier?
Chrono. You know what? We can show and tell or show and do. Here it is, Chrono Quest. I think that's it. Yes, this is it. So here's today's Chrono Quest. You've got to take these 6 events and you have to put them in the order that they occurred. The one at the top would be the first. So you view all of these. Like, for example, I know Johann Sebastian Bach, I think he was born before Washington was elected. The water turbine used in hydroelectric power plants is invented. Maybe leave that there. But I think the Book of Mormon, that would have been in the mid 1800s. Charles Fritz invented the world's first rooftop photovoltaic solar array. That sounds kind of techy. I don't know. I think that's kind of more current. The first appearance of Superman in Action Comics, that was 1939, I believe. I don't know. I'm going to go with this as my guess. I check my answers. So I've got everything right except these 2 right here. I should have gone with my gut and left it as is. So boom, there it is. I got it in 53.4 seconds. You get 3 attempts before it moves on, but that's how you play Chrono. And what I'll do is I'll grab that link right there and I will throw it into Zoom chat as well. Oh, I think I shared that just with you, Dawn. Let me make sure I share that with everyone.
I shared it to everyone though.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So we come back here and again, don't forget to make sure that you scan that QR code so that you can take the survey to get all your goodies. And with that, if you could just reflect back on the session, your conference, what's your takeaway? Did you love it? Are you just thrilled about what you saw? Shocked and awed, maybe even. Maybe you're sweating it because you're thinking, oh my gosh, the days are counting down to where the kids are going to be in there and I've got to deal with them. Or maybe it just gave you lots and lots to be thinking about. There's no wrong answer. What's your reflection on what you have, and maybe even throw in a comment with. Now, Dawn and I will hang out here, but with that being said, thank you so much. We are who we are at TCI because of you. And we could not do what we do for your students were it not for your input and your continued support. So as you're using our programs and resources and you have ideas, don't keep them to yourself. Make sure that you're sharing that with us so that we can continue to improve. We want to make sure that we're here to support the best implementation that you can possibly expect. So thank you. Have a wonderful summer and a great school year. With that, you are dismissed from 3rd period and you're dismissed from the 2024 virtual summit. If you do have questions and you want to stick around, Dawn and I will be here for a few more minutes.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Brian, if you could hop back a few slides to the hashtag. Some people are asking if they can see that information again.
Yeah, this one right here, TCI Summit 24, hashtag no spaces, TCI Summit 24. That is the hashtag you want to throw in there. And Maria Hassan, you need the QR code to scan for the certificate. So we'll do 2 things. I'll throw that slide on there, and then Dawn, if you could throw that link in again for the
Survey?
For the survey. Thank you.
Yeah.
for the survey, that would be great.
Yep, one moment.
Stephanie, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.